The distress signal came at 3 in the morning, ship time. Lieutenant Maria Vance sat up straight in her chair when her console began flashing red. She had been monitoring empty space for 6 hours, and nothing ever happened on the edge of human territory. But now something was happening. "Commander Price to the bridge," she said into the intercom. Her voice was calm, but her heart was beating fast. Daniel Price arrived 2 minutes later. He was a tall man with gray hair at his temples and eyes that had seen too many battles. He walked to Maria's station and looked at her screen. "What do we have?" he asked. "A distress signal, sir. It's not human." Daniel leaned closer. The signal was weak and broken, coming from somewhere far beyond their patrol zone. The computer was trying to translate the alien language, but it was having trouble. "Can you clean it up?" Daniel asked. Maria worked her controls. Slowly, the static cleared and words began to form on her screen. When she read them, her face went pale. "Sir, it's from they're saying their colony is under attack. The Dominion is. They're harvesting the population." The bridge went silent. Everyone knew about they were predators who saw other species as food and slaves. The galaxy feared them, and no one ever challenged them. Chief Engineer Samuel looked up from his station. "Commander, we're one ship. The invasion fleets have dozens of warships." "I know what they have," Daniel said quietly. Ensign Brooks, the youngest officer on the bridge, pulled up information on her tactical display. "Sir, the colony is called Population Over 2 Million. Records show they have no military. They're scientists and farmers." "Children?" Daniel asked. Checked her data. "Yes, sir, hundreds of thousands of children." Daniel stood very still. He thought about regulations. He thought about waiting for fleet support. He thought about what they were doing to those people right now at this very moment. "Maria, send an emergency message to Earth Command. Tell them what we've found and where we're going." He turned to his crew. "Set course for the system, maximum speed." Samuel stood up. "Commander, with respect, we cannot fight an invasion fleet alone. We'll be destroyed." "Probably," Daniel agreed. "But those people sent a call for help. They sent it into the void, hoping someone would answer. We're going to answer." The crew looked at each other. They were scared. They were also proud. This was why they had joined the United Earth Navy, not to patrol empty space, but to protect those who could not protect themselves. Brooks turned back to her console. "Course laid in, sir." "Jump when ready." The patrol vessel Steadfast Hope engaged its faster-than-light drive and vanished into the darkness between stars. The journey took 4 hours. During that time, Daniel Price called his crew together and spoke to them honestly. "I will not order anyone to fight this battle," he said. "When we arrive, anyone who wants to stay behind can do so. There will be no shame in it, but I am going to help those people even if I go alone." No one asked to stay behind. Samuel worked on the engines, pushing them harder than their designers had intended. Maria Vance continued to monitor the distress signal, which was getting weaker. Brooks studied everything they knew about tactics and weaknesses. When the Steadfast Hope dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system, they saw the truth of what was happening. The colony world was burning. From orbit, they could see the fires spreading across the continents. Warships filled the space around the planet, their dark hulls blocking out the stars. Transport ships were descending to the surface and rising again, full of captured. "I count 22 warships," reported. Her voice was shaking, but she kept working. "Plus dozens of transport vessels." Maria's console beeped. "Sir, I'm picking up communications from the surface. They're hiding in underground shelters. Millions of them are still alive." Daniel nodded. "Then we have work to do, all hands to battle stations." The Steadfast Hope moved toward the fleet. It was one ship against an armada. The odds were impossible, but the humans did not turn back. A commander noticed the small human vessel approaching. He found it amusing. He broadcast a message telling the humans to leave or be destroyed. Daniel Price responded by firing every weapon his ship had at the nearest warship. The battle began. The Steadfast Hope was fast and small. Daniel used that advantage, weaving between the massive ships and striking at their weak points. They were not used to prey that fought back. They were confused and angry. Samuel kept the engines running even as damage reports filled his screen. Maria Vance jammed communications, making it harder for them to coordinate. Brooks found targets and fed information to the weapons systems. The steadfast hope destroyed one ship, then another, then a third. But there were too many enemies. They surrounded the human vessel and began tearing it apart. Hull breaches opened on 3 decks. The shields failed. The engines started to die. "Commander, we need to retreat," Samuel said. "We cannot take much more." Daniel looked at the planet below. They were still being taken. Children were being loaded onto transport ships. He wanted to keep fighting, but he knew Samuel was right. A dead crew could save no one. "Take us to the far side of the moon," Daniel ordered. "We'll hide there and make repairs." The steadfast hope limped away from the battle, trailing smoke and fire. They let them go. They thought the humans were finished. As the ship settled into hiding behind the moon, Maria Vance managed to establish a connection with the below. A face appeared on screen. It was Elder Counselor, leader of the colony. She was old and tired, and she had been crying. Elder Counselor had lived for 200 years. In all that time, she had never seen anyone fight the. When they came, you ran. When they caught you, you died. That was how the galaxy worked. But now a small human ship had attacked an entire fleet. It had destroyed 3 of their warships. 3. She could not understand it. "Why did you come?" she asked the human commander through the communication screen. "You do not know us. We have nothing to offer you." Daniel Price looked tired. His uniform was torn and there was blood on his face from a cut on his forehead, but his eyes were steady. "You asked for help," he said simply. "That was enough." Did not know how to respond to this. They had sent their distress call out of desperation, not hope. They had expected to die alone. Instead, humans had come. Far away at a military base orbiting Earth, Fleet Admiral Cole received the emergency message from the steadfast hope. He read it twice. Then he began issuing orders. "I want every available ship ready to jump in 1 hour," he said to his staff. "They have gone too far this time." His tactical officer, Cross, pulled up the star charts. "Sir, the system is deep in neutral space. If we engage there, it could start a war." "They started this war when they attacked civilians," Cole replied. "We're going to finish it." 12 warships of the United Earth Navy began preparing for battle. Among them was the destroyer Relentless, commanded by Captain Lisa. She was a small woman with short, dark hair and a reputation for aggressive tactics. Her crew loved her because she never asked them to do anything she would not do herself. "All hands," she announced over the ship's speakers. "We're going to rescue some people and kill some. Any questions?" There were no questions. The situation was getting worse. They had realized that they were hiding in underground shelters. They began sending troops to dig them out. Warlord commanded the invasion from his flagship. He was large even for with dark scales and eyes that showed no mercy. He had conquered 12 worlds and harvested billions of beings. They were just another meal to him. When his officers told him about the human ship that had attacked them, he was curious. "Humans," he said, rolling the word around in his mouth. I have heard stories about them." "Should we hunt down their ship, Warlord?" an officer asked. "No, let them hide. I want to see what they do next. It has been a long time since Prey tried to fight back. This might be entertaining." On the surface soldiers broke into a shelter complex and began dragging out into the open. They screamed and begged, but they did not listen. They never listened. Elder watched through security cameras as her people were taken. She felt helpless. Her species had no weapons, no soldiers, no way to fight. They had always believed that peace was the highest virtue. Now she wondered if they had been wrong. "How long until your help arrives?" she asked Daniel Price. Daniel checked his calculations. 6 hours, maybe 7. "We may not last that long." Daniel looked at his damaged ship. The steadfast hope could barely move. Its weapons were nearly empty, but he could not sit and do nothing while innocent people died. "Samuel," he said to his chief engineer, "how soon can we fly again?" Samuel wiped sweat from his face. He had been working without rest for hours. "I can give you engines in 30 minutes, but Commander, if we go back out there, we will not survive." "I'm not asking anyone to go with me," Daniel said. Maria Vance stood up from her console. "With respect, sir, that's stupid. We're your crew. Where you go, we go." Brooks nodded. "She's right, Commander. We didn't come all this way to hide." Daniel looked at his people. They were young. They were scared. They were ready to die for strangers they had never met. He had never been more proud of anyone in his life. 30 minutes, he said to Samuel. Get us flying. While the steadfast Hope made repairs, they continued their harvest. Transport ships filled with prisoners rose into orbit and docked with the larger vessels. The captives would be taken to space and used for food and labor. Few would survive more than a year. Warlord watched the operation with satisfaction. Everything was going according to plan. The human ship was hiding. No rescue was coming. They were his. Then his sensors detected something strange. The damaged human ship was moving again. It was coming out from behind the moon and heading straight for his fleet. One ship, laughed. One broken ship against my entire fleet. These humans are insane. His officers laughed with him, but deep down, some of them felt something they had not felt in a long time. They felt uncertain. What kind of creature attacked an enemy it could not defeat? What kind of prey refused to accept death? The steadfast Hope opened fire again. Its weapons were weak, but Daniel Price did not aim at the human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. 12 warships appeared in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming in the light of the distant star. Admiral Cole stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the scene before him. The world was covered in smoke and fire. Ships filled the space around it. And there, in the middle of everything, a single damaged vessel was still fighting. The steadfast Hope, Cole said quietly, still alive. Barely, sir, Cross reported. She's taken critical damage. I don't know how she's still flying. She's still flying because her commander refuses to quit. Cole turned to his communications officer. Open a channel to the fleet. The face of Warlord appeared on the main screen. He was smiling, showing rows of sharp teeth. More humans, said. How wonderful. I was getting bored with just one ship to chase. I am Fleet Admiral Cole of the United Earth Navy. You will release all prisoners and withdraw from this system immediately. This is not a request. Laughed, it was an ugly sound. You have 12 ships, I have 26. They belong to me now. Leave, or I will add human meat to my harvest. Cole's expression did not change. You have made a mistake, Warlord. You attacked innocent people. You called for help, and we answered. Now you will learn what happens when you threaten those under our protection. Your protection, leaned forward. These are nothing to you. They are weak. They cannot fight. Why would you die for them? Because they needed us, Cole said simply, and because we can. He ended the transmission. All ships, Cole announced to his fleet, weapons free. Protect the steadfast Hope and destroy any vessel that does not surrender. Today we show the galaxy what humanity stands for. The battle began. Captain Lisa led her destroyer Relentless in a charge straight at the center. Her ship was fast and heavily armed. She drove a wedge through the enemy formation, creating chaos and confusion. The other human ships followed her lead. They attacked in groups of 3, supporting each other and overwhelming individual vessels. They had numbers, but the humans had something more. They had purpose. Warlord watched his ships being torn apart and could not understand what was happening. His fleet should be winning. His crews should be destroying these weak humans. Instead, human ships absorbed damage that would cripple any other species and kept fighting. How are they doing this? He demanded. Our weapons are hitting them. His science officer checked the readings. Warlord, the humans, they come from a heavy gravity world. Their ships are built to survive conditions that would kill us. They are stronger than we thought. Had heard that humans were creatures from a planet so dangerous that survival required constant adaptation. He had thought it was just a story. Now he was learning the truth. While the space battle raged, human Marines prepared to deploy to the surface. Sergeant Victor led a squad of 30 soldiers. They had one mission, rescue as many as possible. Drop pods in 60 seconds, the pilot announced. Victor checked his weapon one more time. He had fought many battles, but never against He had heard what they did to their captives. The thought made him angry. Listen up, he told his squad. Down there are innocent people being taken as slaves. We're going to stop that. Stay together, follow orders, and remember why we're here. The drop pods launched. Victor felt the crushing force of acceleration as his pod screamed through the atmosphere. Fire surrounded him. His teeth rattled in his skull. Then the pod hit the ground hard enough to shake his bones. He kicked open the door and stepped onto an alien world. The city around him was in ruins, buildings had collapsed, fires burned everywhere. But he could hear sounds in the distance, soldiers shouting, screaming. Move out, he ordered. The Marines advanced through the destruction. They found soldiers herding a group toward a transport landing zone. Without hesitation, Victor gave the order to attack. Human weapons roared. Soldiers fell. The aliens were shocked. No prey had ever fought back like this. No prey had ever been so aggressive. Victor killed 3 himself. He moved through them like a force of nature, faster and stronger than they expected. His squad did the same. In minutes, the patrol was dead. The prisoners stared at the humans with huge eyes. They did not understand what had happened. They had been walking toward death, and now they were free. "You're safe," Victor told them. "We're here to help." A child approached him. She was small and thin, with pale skin and delicate features. She looked up at Victor with wonder. "Are you the ones from the stars?" she asked. "The ones who fight?" Victor knelt down so he was at her level. "Yes, we heard you needed help, so we came." The child reached out and touched his armored hand. "Thank you," she whispered. Victor felt something tighten in his chest. This was why he fought. This was why it mattered. Doctor arrived with the second wave of drop pods. She was a medical officer who had insisted on joining the ground mission. She set up a field hospital in the ruins of a school and began treating the wounded. The injuries were terrible. They had not been gentle with their captives, but worked without stopping, saving every life she could. Elder found her there, working in the middle of a battlefield. "You are a healer?" asked. "I'm a doctor," said without looking up. She was stitching a wound on a young male. "Hold still, please." "Why do you do this? Your people are fighting and dying above us. Why heal strangers when your own are in danger?" Finally looked at her. "Because healing is what I do, and because your people matter, all lives matter." Did not know what to say. In her experience, species helped only themselves. The strong preyed on the weak. That was the law of the galaxy. But these humans were different. They killed to protect. They healed without asking for payment. They died for people they had never met. For the first time, began to understand why the galaxy called them. It was not because they came from a dangerous planet. It was because they were dangerous to anyone who threatened the innocent. In orbit, the battle continued. The fleet was losing. Warlord watched ship after the order went out across all frequencies. Execute the prisoners, leave nothing for the humans to save. Victor intercepted the transmission. His blood turned cold. "All units," he said into his radio, "they are going to kill their captives. We need to move. Now." The Marines had been spreading across the city, rescuing wherever they found them. Now they changed direction. They ran toward the largest concentration of forces, a holding facility in the center of the city where thousands of prisoners waited for transport. Victor's squad reached the facility first. It was a massive building surrounded by walls and guard towers. Soldiers stood at every entrance. Inside, prisoners were being lined up. The executions had already begun. Victor could hear the screams. He could hear the weapons fire, and something inside him snapped. "Breach the wall," he ordered. "Kill everything that's not." His squad used explosives to blow a hole in the outer wall. They poured through the gap, weapons blazing. They were ready for them. They opened fire with everything they had. 2 Marines fell in the first seconds, then 3 more, but the rest kept advancing. They could not stop. Every second of delay meant more dead prisoners. Victor killed after. He moved through the facility like death itself. His armor was hit again and again, but he did not slow down. Human bodies could take punishment that other species could not. Human soldiers were trained to fight through pain that would stop anyone else. They began to retreat. They had never seen prey like this. These humans were not running. These humans were hunting. Victor reached the main courtyard where prisoners were being held. Bodies lay on the ground, who had been killed before the Marines could arrive. But many more were still alive, cowering against the walls, waiting to die. "Clear," Victor shouted when the last soldier fell. The surviving prisoners looked at the humans with shocked expressions. One moment they had been facing death. The next moment, armored warriors had appeared and destroyed their captors. Doctor arrived minutes later. She had brought every medical supply she could carry. When she saw the wounded, she did not hesitate. She began working immediately. "Help me," she said to the Marines. "Anyone who can apply pressure to a wound, do it now." Victor knelt beside a dying female. She had been shot in the chest. There was nothing he could do for her, but he held her hand anyway. "You came," she whispered. "You really came." "We came," Victor confirmed. I'm sorry we weren't faster. She smiled weakly. You came, that is enough. She died holding his hand. Victor closed her eyes gently. Then he stood up and went back to work. In orbit, the space battle had reached its final stage. The human fleet had destroyed or disabled most of the warships. Only a handful remained, including Warlord's flagship. Looked at the destruction around him and felt rage building inside him. He had been defeated. Defeated by prey. Defeated by weak, soft creatures who should have been food. If he was going to die, he would make them pay. Set course for the planet, he ordered. Maximum speed, we're going to ram the largest population center. His crew obeyed. The massive flagship turned toward and accelerated. Even damaged, it had enough mass to devastate the surface when it hit. Admiral Cole saw what was happening. All ships, stop that flagship. Do not let it reach the planet. Human vessels opened fire, but the flagship was too heavily armored. It absorbed the damage and kept going. Nothing could stop it in time. Captain Lisa watched from the bridge of the Relentless. She did the calculations in her head. Her ship was fast enough to intercept. But there was only one way to stop something that large moving that fast. She had to hit it. All hands, she announced calmly. This is the captain. Prepare for collision. It has been an honor serving with you. Her crew understood. Some of them cried. All of them stayed at their posts. The Relentless accelerated to maximum speed. Lisa aimed her ship directly at the flagship. She thought about her family back on Earth. She thought about the children who would die if she did nothing. It was an easy choice. For humanity, she said quietly. The Relentless struck the flagship at full speed. The collision was massive. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the sky above. Lisa and her crew died instantly. But the flagship was destroyed. The planet was saved. On the surface, Elder saw the explosion. She did not know what had happened, but she could guess. Someone had sacrificed themselves to protect her world. Who was it? She asked the human soldier beside her. Victor checked his communications. His voice was thick when he answered. The destroyer Relentless, Captain Lisa and her crew, they stopped the flagship from reaching the planet. Felt tears running down her face. She died for us. A human captain died for strangers. Yes, Victor said simply. The remaining forces saw their warlord die. They saw their flagship destroyed by a single human ship. Their will to fight broke. One by one, vessels began to surrender. Others fled into faster-than-light travel, running from the 3 days after the battle was quiet. The fires had been put out. The bodies had been buried. The survivors were beginning to rebuild. Human relief ships arrived in a steady stream. They brought food, medicine, building materials, and thousands of volunteers. Doctors, engineers, teachers. All of them had come to help strangers on the other side of the galaxy. Elder walked through the ruins of her city with Admiral Cole at her side. She had aged years in the past week, but there was something new in her eyes. Hope. We have prepared a memorial service, she told him. For your fallen, we wish to honor them properly. Cole nodded. That would mean a great deal to us, thank you. Thank us, stopped walking and turned to face him. Admiral, your people died for mine. Captain sacrificed her ship and her life to save our world. How can we ever repay such a debt? There is no debt, Cole said gently. We did what was right, that's all. Shook her head. Among my people, such sacrifice must be recognized. We have created a new word in our language. It translates roughly as those who shield strangers. From this day forward, that is what we will call humans. Cole felt emotion tighten his throat. That is a great honor. It is the truth. The memorial service was held at sunset. The sky above turned orange and gold as two species gathered together to remember the dead. And humans stood side by side. They had been strangers a week ago. Now they were bound together by blood and sacrifice. Elder spoke first. Her voice carried across the silent crowd. For 200 years, I believed that the galaxy was a cold and cruel place. I believed that the strong preyed on the weak and that no one would ever help us. I was wrong. She looked at the humans in the crowd. Soldiers still wearing armor, doctors still covered in the stains of their work, ordinary people who had traveled across the stars to help. When they came, we sent a message into the void. We did not believe anyone would answer, but you did. You came from your distant world. You fought and bled and died for people you had never met. And today, because of you, my people are free. Tears streamed down her face, but her voice remained strong. "We cannot repay what you have given us, but we can remember. We will tell our children about the humans who came. We will tell for as long as our species exists, we will remember the who chose to be our protectors." Admiral Cole spoke next. He read the names of every human who had died in the battle, 147 names, each one a life cut short, each one a hero. When he reached the name of Captain Lisa, the crowd fell even more silent. "Lisa was not a remarkable person," Cole said. "By that I mean she was like all of us. She had family. She had dreams. She was afraid of death like anyone else. But when the moment came, she did not hesitate. She gave her life so that millions could live. That is what makes humans special, not our strength, not our technology, but our willingness to sacrifice for others." After the service, Victor sat alone on a pile of rubble. He was exhausted. He had not slept more than a few hours since arriving on, but he could not bring himself to rest. A small figure approached him. It was the child he had rescued on the first day. She sat down beside him without speaking. "Are you okay?" Victor asked. "My parents are dead," she said quietly. "The killed them." Victor did not know what to say. He put his arm around her small shoulders and held her. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm so sorry we couldn't save everyone." "You saved me," she said. "You saved many of us, that matters." They sat together as the sun finished setting. Two strangers from different worlds, connected by tragedy and hope. Doctor had decided to stay on. There was too much work to do, too many people who needed help. She was training healers, sharing human medical knowledge, building something that would last long after she was gone. "You could go home," Elder told her. "Your service is complete. No one would blame you." Looked around at the makeshift hospital she had created. Patients were recovering in beds. Students were learning how to treat wounds and cure diseases. "Home can wait," she said. "These people need me now." Commander Daniel Price received a promotion. He was now Captain Price, and he had been given command of a new ship. He chose to name it the Lisa. On the day he took command, he gathered his crew and spoke to them. "This ship carries the name of a hero. She died protecting innocent lives. Every time we fly this vessel, we honor her memory. We carry her spirit with us, and we continue her mission." The crew stood at attention. They understood the weight of that name. They would carry it with pride. News of the battle have spread across the galaxy. Species that had ignored humanity now paid attention. Species that had feared the now wondered if they had been wrong. The Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. Representatives from dozens of species debated what to do about humanity. "They are dangerous," one ambassador argued. "They destroyed an invasion fleet. They could turn that power against any of us." "They used that power to save innocent lives," another countered. "They were nothing to them, and yet they died to protect them. Is that not worthy of respect?" The debate continued. No decision was reached, but something had changed. The galaxy was starting to see humanity in a different light. The Dominion sent diplomats to Earth for the first time in their history. They did not come as conquerors. They came to talk. "We underestimated you," the ambassador said. "We will not make that mistake again." It was not peace, but it was a beginning. On life slowly returned to normal. The scars of the invasion would take years to heal, but they were no longer alone. Human volunteers stayed to help rebuild. Human ships patrolled nearby space to ensure they did not return. One evening, the child found Victor preparing to leave. His unit was being recalled to Earth. "Will you come back?" she asked. Victor knelt down so he could look her in the eyes. "I promise I will visit, and if you ever need help, just call. We'll answer." "Like you did before." "Like we did before." She hugged him tightly. Victor hugged her back. Then he boarded his transport and flew away. But before he left, she asked him one more question. "Why did you come? Why did humans fly across the stars to help people you never met?" Victor thought about it. He thought about Captain and her sacrifice. He thought about Doctor and her dedication. He thought about Commander Price and his determination. He gave her the only answer that mattered. "Because you called." And that was enough. Who had defeated them? Commander Daniel Price, whose ship had finally rejoined the battle, accepted the surrender of second-in-command. The officer looked at Daniel with something like respect. "Why do you fight so hard?" they asked. "What do these mean to you?" Daniel thought about the question. He thought about the distress call that had started everything. He thought about Lisa and her crew. He thought about all the humans who had died today for people they had never met. "They mean everything," Daniel said. "Because all innocent life has value, because we choose to protect those who cannot protect themselves, because that is what it means to be human." PB destroyed and felt something unfamiliar. Fear. He had conquered 12 worlds, he had never lost, but these humans would not stop coming. They would not stop fighting. They seemed to grow stronger the more he hurt them. He made a decision. If he could not have no one would. "Order all ground forces to execute the prisoners," he commanded. "All of them now." Toward the planet, drawing more after him. Every minute the spent chasing him was a minute they were not harvesting. It was a desperate tactic. It was working. On the surface, Elder watched the human ship dance between the warships. It was being hit again and again, but it would not stop. It would not give up. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do they do this?" She did not know that across the galaxy, human ships were racing toward her world. She did not know that millions of humans had seen her distress call and demanded that their government respond. She did not know that humanity had decided together that they would not die alone. All she knew was that one small ship was fighting for her people, and that, for the first time in her long life, she had hope. "You came," she said. Her voice was full of wonder. "No one has ever come for us before." Daniel looked at her through the screen. His ship was broken, his crew was wounded, but he made a promise. "More of us are coming, hold on, help is on the way." He just hoped he was telling the truth.